Well spoken, and what a wonderful tribute too. I think that deserves another round of applause. The initial inductee. Now, just looking around, we don't want to make this North Melbourne centric. I mean to say he was such a larger-than-life figure and a universal figure, and pardon me if I'm a little bit ignorant and remiss of the enormous contribution that he did make here, because a lot of clubs here, Maine and Queensland, I remember coaching New South Wales against Queensland, and Mick was involved in that period of time. And I know there's a lot of people here from those respective clubs and some great players that we tend to focus on our very own. So I do make that apology, and I'd like all the players that have played with Mick in Queensland to just stand up momentarily, whether you played with him or against him. Just would you please stand up? Not the North Melbourne players, I'll talk to the North Melbourne players shortly. And the administrators, all those people associated with Mick in some shape or form. Yeah, fantastic. And of course our very own. You know, I see the great Johnny Burns, would you stand? Roy Ramsey, Peter Chisnell, Barry Goodingham. Would you guys please stand momentarily? Keith Gregg, the great Keith Gregg. Who would ever forget the great Keith Gregg? Gary Farron, Phil Ryan, the great Laurie Dwyer, the father figure of Laurie Dwyer. And the guy that brought us all together and so instrumental, and he's just probably as much to do with this club as anyone else that you would speak of, the great Ron Joseph. Of course, the secretary in charge that took over the reins from Ron and learned everything. It was my chaperone on a number of interstate visits, which fucked my career at the end, but anyhow, David Robb. Max Ritchie, the chairman of selectors of our wonderful 75 premiership side. Tony Healy. And of course our current directors are here as well. Peter DeRouche is here. Pete, you're here. And of course the guy, in a lot of ways, saved the club. There's no doubt about that. Without his acumen and smarts, I doubt very much whether it would have been around by now. And in fact, we were the Friday night club. We were very much the innovative club. And a tribute to this great man, the great Bob Ansett. Who have I missed, Burnsy? Oh, Shimmer. Ah, young Shimmer. God, it's not Wayne Shimmer should be here, but his brother. And if I've missed anyone, I do apologise. Tarrawinji, yes, the Tarrawinji Joe Carl. Joe, where are you? What a great stalwart of the club this is. You know, when you ask about North Melbourne, now, I venture that every club's got a Joe Cale in their club, but let me tell you, rain, hail or shine, this guy was at every game. He knew every player, and every player loved being around Joe Cale. They are a special and unique individual. Johnny Cassin's here. I saw Johnny. I was with Johnny. He's just departed. Where is he? Where are you, Johnny? Oh, come in, John. You were here. I was looking for you. And here's a trivia question. What's unique about Johnny Cassin? Oh, yes, Keith. Go on, up you get. Go on, tell everyone. Oh, he played 27 games. When you tell me else? Hey? Yeah, it's a record, Ron. We know that. I didn't want actually you to answer the question, Ronnie. Does anyone else in this room know that? There's a prize going for it. Yeah, you did. So it's fantastic. So I hope we haven't left anyone out. I know there's probably significant... Sorry? Well, Barry was up here earlier, David. David, why don't you just stick to the terms that you're invited here to do and let me drive the rest of the ship? So if I've left anyone out that needs to be recognised, I know that we're not that precious in Australia, you know, but I do apologise. Moving right along down the line, it's that time now I'm going to hand over to Bart Sinclair, because Bart's got a couple of a video, he's also got a couple of introductions and also got a very special auction. Bart Sinclair. Well done, Barty. It's all yours.
Thanks, Sam. Well, I think we all recognise the great feats of Mick Nolan at North Melbourne. We've heard many illustrious people talk about Mick's career there. In Queensland, we'd like to think that his football career blossomed when he came to Queensland because he went to another role. He became captain coach. So he was about mentoring young men in football and, more importantly, in life. And part of his mantra was that, you know, we should do the right thing. He was a massive man, but he didn't use his weight to advantage on the ground illegally. But there was a period at Maine they were struggling a bit. Like all football clubs, everyone's an expert, and myself included urged Bill Quill, who unfortunately can't be here today. He's a little bit of ill health and sends his apologies, but Bill was the chairman of selectors and said, you know, get Mick to belt some bastard. The other clubs are starting to hurt us a bit, and it really went against the grain a bit for Mick, but he took it on board, and he did cause a bit of trouble in a game at Windsor Park. He got a week for it. The guy announced his retirement from his hospital bed that night. Mick fell on him before he belted him. You imagine the nightmares that bloke must still have of that arse crack coming down on his head. But he was a gentle giant, and I think we'd like to introduce a couple of people who were very much part of the main football club in that successful period in the 80s. And firstly, I'd like you to welcome Graham McComb. Graham was the co-coach there in that time, and just wonderful the way he developed some young men. And Jesus, it was a tough task at Maine. There were some wild boys.
Yeah, it was, Bart, and the club was actually struggling a bit in 1980, and when Mick first came in 81, I was fortunate to be appointed seconds coach and his assistant in the first grade, and he just changed the club around. We had a very successful period through the 80s and won a premiership in 82, just lost a grand final in 85, and it was just his influence and his sense of mateship and his sense of team spirit and club spirit that just rubbed off everybody. They just wanted to be there, and we had some rough heads, but they towed the line. They wanted to do the right thing.
I think it was the manner of the respect in which Mick was held. They weren't exactly Churchillian addresses he would give before the game. It was by his acts on the field that he led his men.
Exactly right. And, you know, it's been well talked about tonight how great a ruckman he was. Fitzy was our main rover, and Mick could just say to him, "Wizard, where do you want to be?" And he said, "I want to be over here." And he said, "Well, you just make sure you get there." There it went. And, you know, he led by example, he inspired people. And the good thing was that across the whole competition, we had a really good, strong competition, tribal, suburban clubs with a lot of good following. And I've never heard one person, even from opposition clubs, say a bad word about the Gas. He was just an ornament to the game and well loved.
And I think testimony to that, we've got so many different clubs here today. You did a This Is Your Life segment on Mick, and it was just a wonderful night at the club. But you didn't get a knockback from anyone you approached, all down the eastern seaboard. Everyone wanted to contribute to that This Is Your Life.
That was a wonderful experience. That was in just before the finals in 1983, and I put the idea to the club, and they supported it. And Eddie was wonderful in her support, giving me information behind the back door and keeping it away from Mick. And one of our sponsors, Billy Mallon, funded me to go to Melbourne with a camera, and I flew down there, and some of these legend guys here, it was a thrill to me. The first guy I saw was Alan Ayler at his dental surgery, I think, down in St Kilda Road. And interviewed Ron. He was coaching Melbourne at the time, and went out to Arden Street and organised interviews with the players. I spoke to Keith Gregg, who was working at the club at that time, and he set that up. And Barry Cable was the coach at the time in a team selection meeting that night, and he said, "Can you come around home tomorrow?" Which I did, and from memory was out Essendon way somewhere, Barry. And I spent 2 wonderful hours at his house with his wife, had a couple of cups of tea, and we talked about Mick here, Mick at North, footy in general, and then we did the videotape of Barry's tribute to Mick for that night. And we played it back on his TV, and he looked at it, and he said to me, I'll never forget this, "Can I do it again?" And I said, "Why?" Because what he said was just absolutely wonderful. And he said, as a tribute to the bloke and the tribute to the night that it is for the bloke, I feel I need to be in a coat and tie. And I just looked at him and said, what you said is wonderful. We're pretty laid back and casual here. People will know who you are, and what you've said is the most meaningful thing. And we left it at that, and it went over very, very well, and it was an enormous night. The club flew Ron up for the night, and he did a wonderful job at the night. And I've got, if I can, I'd like to tell one funny story, because it's about Mick the character and his sense of humour that came out on that night. Andrew Ireland couldn't be there. He was part of our club at that time. And he had a videotape message. And it was about, there was a major fun run in Melbourne on the Sunday morning after a game that North Melbourne played Collingwood. And North had given Collingwood a touch-up at Victoria Park. And so the fun run started, and Tommy Hafey was the coach of Collingwood, and he took off to see how many of his players he could beat on the fun run. And Wayne Richardson was the captain of Collingwood, had teed up the Collingwood bus driver to follow along behind the fun run. So Andy Ireland's jogging along, and he hears, "Andy, get on the bus, get on the bus." Here's Wayne Richardson on the front step of the bus. "Get on the bus, get on the bus." So he's running another couple of Ks, because he better not do the wrong thing with Hafey. Finally, he gets on the bus. There, sitting in the front seat of the Collingwood team bus, was Mick Nolan from North Melbourne. Now, that came out on the night, and the next morning, Mick and I took Ron to the airport, and we're sitting there having a cup of coffee. I don't know whether you remember this. And Ron looked at Mick during the conversation and said, "Mick, did you really get on that bus?" And I went, "Oh, shit." Well, Mick loved a laugh, and if you know him, he loved a good laugh. And when he had a good laugh, the whole body joined in.
It's a big laugh.
So Mick's response was, he looked at Barras, and the cheeks went. Then the head went. Then the shoulders got in time. And then the whole body went in time, and Mick just cracked up laughing. I'm almost rolling around the floor, didn't know what to say. And that was his response. He never actually said yes or no. So to this day, I'm not sure really what happened.
Graham, I know that he was very close to you and to all the players there, and it's just great to see so many people here. Thanks for your contribution.
Thanks, Bart.
Good on you, Graham. I too vividly remember the This Is Your Life night, which I compared, highlighted by the fact, as we were getting into quite an emotional part of the evening, you hear this strange noise, and it's something you usually associate with someone who's had too much to drink late at night. I turned round and Dale was vomiting on the stage. So he became a central figure in the This Is Your Life night. Another very important player of that era at Maine was, as Graham mentioned earlier, the rover to the great ruckman. Would you please welcome Gary Fitzpatrick? Fitzy, there were some tough boys at Maine, but around Mick, they just towed the line. There was no thought that he didn't have to say anything, he just was there.
That's right, Bart. He was an icon, as we all know, and the presence he had around the club was fantastic. And I think I'd just like to say a couple of things about the players I've seen here, not only from our club but from other clubs around the QAFL in that era. It's fantastic to see you all here and pay tribute to the guy, because I think quite a few of you play with him in the state teams, and I think it's just great, and it's just fabulous for Nettie and the boys to see the respect that he had within the community up here.
Well said. He expected everyone to do the little things, and he was prepared to do them as well. But shit, it was funny when he'd do the chase and he'd run 50 metres and lose 5 every 10, but he would put in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. By the time he got up here, he probably put a couple of kilo on from when he was...
Kilos?
Yeah, a couple of kilos. Yeah, we're going to talk, you talk. So he wasn't quite as quick, but he used to amaze me that he could get through a game, although he didn't train a real lot. I don't think you probably count on one hand the number of times he trained, because he always had something wrong with him. But he'd get around the ground like you wouldn't believe, and very rarely would he take time off the field. And it was just a tribute to probably his heart more than anything, just how much time he actually put in on the field.
When it was time to relax, he didn't mind a cold beer.
Yeah. Well, Mick's probably quite legendary amongst the main boys that are here with his drinking ability, and you know how big he was. He was 6'5" or 6 or whatever, and 22 or 3 stone. So he's a big bloke, and I made 2 pretty fatal errors myself in the time that Mick was there. I actually stayed with him in a room on our 82 trip away, and he said he'd look after me, as he did. And also in 83 down at the Escort Shield final in Hobart. And the 2 fatal mistakes were that when Mick had finished, we were down there celebrating after the 82 grand final, he said, well, Cobb, we better have a drink. I said, OK, Mick, I'll have a drink. I was a bit younger then, and I thought I could go all right. But, of course, I'm only a little bloke, as you can see, and Mick's as big as he is. And, of course, he proceeded to drink me under the table, and, I thought, well, I've tried my best, put my best foot forward, and then, of course, Mick said, come on, Fitzy, we've got to have another drink. And next thing I know, there's an ambulance turned up. I went home, he went for another 2 hours, and that was it. So don't ever take Mick on in a drinking contest, because it just doesn't happen.
Fitzy, his influence, we've heard through Maine, was enormous, but to all the people he touched in football, outside of football, and I know that you and everyone at Maine just had him on a pedestal. Yeah,
well, the 83 Escort Shield final in Tasmania was a classic example of that. It was a pretty tight game, the whole game, and of course, being in Tassie, it was cold, and we got into the last quarter, and I think we were probably, 6 or 7 points up, and maybe a couple of goals at one stage there, and we got right to the end of the game, and it was still really tight. And right at the final siren, Mick went up for a contested mark or a tap out, I can't quite remember what, and as he went up for the mark or tap, he fell to the ground, hit the deck, and I remember this clear because I was only 20 metres away. By the time the siren had gone, I turned around and there was already 3 or 4 guys there from other teams that were there to help him up and pick the big fella up. So just to be there and celebrate with him. So that's the sort of respect he had, definitely.
Well, we can hang on to those memories because we've got a lot of them, and it's great for you to be here today and be a contributor.
Thanks very much.
Good on you, Fitzy.
Mick Nolan got to kick the last goal to win this game. Nolan, captain and coach. Mick Nolan lining up the ball now. What a great asset he's been to Queensland football since coming here from North Melbourne. Makes the kick. How accurate is it? It's great, Mick. Mick Nolan goal to take Morningside into trouble. Made almost to their 15th premiership as the score goes on.
Way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. trouble melts like lemon drops.
Grand final of 1975, North Melbourne versus Hawthorn. Right into the goal square by the look of it. Nolan backing back, read the flight of that magnificently. Just about ready to fly that flag. Their first ever as the ball goes deep to attack. Up towards Wade and Brimner. Pushed away, grabbed by Burns. Over the Shimmerbush, another goal.
We only have 40-odd premiership players, and Mick was certainly one of them, and we need to treat them all like gold.
Can't well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day.
Mick admits that his legs are feeling the pinch more with every game.
Well, it's okay during the matches, but you know, at my stage in life, I find it very hard to get over each game as far as training goes, and you know, it's usually Thursday or Friday before I can, you know, even start to walk. Okay,
It'll all pay off if you win.
it'll certainly all be well and truly worth it if we can win.
Goss and Big Mick lays right on top of McGarry.
Well, he didn't really, Arthur. He just put a hand on him, but it was the equivalent of anyone else laying on top of someone, I think.
What a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind.
When they've got it. The bounce back with umpire Braden. And they come. Nolan takes the ball straight out of the ruck. Fends off Blair. Shows great strength. Drives the ball.
High above the chimney top, that's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dream that you dare to, why, oh, why can't
I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all the people that have come from far and yonder. I know there's people here from Wangaratta Rovers that have made the pilgrimage, a lengthy pilgrimage, a big trip. So we do sincerely thank all of those people. I know we've come from far and wide all around Australia. And I know it's not easy, and whilst we've got this fucking Labor government with the cost of fuel, it's going to be increasingly more difficult till we get them out of here. But I'm not going to turn this into a political sermon because we've got other issues to address as well. This is not about politics. This is not about anything personal. This has been a fantastic afternoon. And on behalf of Nettie, I'm sure that I say that on the boys, it's been a fantastic tribute to a great, great man. I think the glowing tributes that have been espoused by each and every one of us, he's touched us enormously. It's been a great representation from far and wide. And I think that's a testimony to the guy that he was. So we could talk for endless hours, you know, on what sort of a person he was, but I think at the end of the day, I think we voted with our feet. And to acquire a crowd of this magnitude at such short notice, I think is a fitting tribute. It's been a wonderful afternoon. And you know, life's not always gauged by the amount of breaths you take, but by the moments that the breath's been taken from you. And I think that would have been part of Mick's epitaph. So on that note, God bless. May the good Lord keep smiling upon us. We've been dealt a good set of cards. It has been great to be here, a part of such a wonderful night or a wonderful afternoon. And regardless of where our lives and destinies take us, we'll always be able to reflect back one day and say, well, remember, I was at one of the great functions of all time. God bless.
just once again, on behalf of the family, to the organisers, Murdoch, and to the crew from North Melbourne and from Maine, thank you very much. Very special day. The old man died with a lot of strength, a lot of honour, and something that we can be proud of as a family. Thank you.
No other way. There is a price to pay for what the man will say, but I was a million miles away in a promise full of stain. It could take no vacant dream to persuade me to believe. I think just don't fight it, don't fight it, don't fight it. If you don't know what it is, if you don't know what it is. Left my heart in places, forgot every one of their faces, and tried to navigate a broken path of which I may have helped create. In any incident, this is never no accident, to stand alone and let the silence make itself at home. Oh, give it up, those dirty tricks, no quick fix can undo it. Oh, give it up, I won't resist. My answer's always this. I said don't fight it, don't fight it, don't fight it. If you don't know what it is, if you don't know what it is, just don't fight it, don't fight it, don't fight it. If you don't know what it is, if you don't know what it is. Where has my light gone? Where has my fight gone? What keeps us burning when the fight is long gone? When I can't relate to that voice without a face, should I be afraid? Or is it just a voice I did create? Oh, give it up,